Hi, I'm Jacob Moore, and I'll be opening up our presentation today with a brief location and market analysis. For this project, we will be looking at a private country club in Sunset, South Carolina. The community we will be focusing on is the Reserve at Lake Huey. This private community is home to several amenities, open to members only, including a Jack Nicklaus golf course, a fine dining clubhouse, two other restaurants, fitness and tennis facilities, three pool areas, and a full-service marina. For the purpose of this project, we will only be choosing comps from this community to ensure accuracy when doing the sales comparison approach. Homes in this community typically surpass the $1 million value, with lakefront homes reaching into the high 2 millions. There's currently a ton of activity in this community, with 54 houses currently being built and homes being bought and sold on a regular basis.
All right, I'm Connor Burke, and we will be looking at the sales comparison approach for our subject property 136 South Falls Road in Sunset, South Carolina. So for the sales comparison approach, we will be comparing our subject property to a list of comparable properties that we found that were similar. These comparable properties are listed on the screen right here. I won't go into reading them just because there's quite a few. So for our sales comparison approach to get our appraisal price, we start with the sales price of all of the other comparable properties from the last time that they were actually sold. And we make adjustments from there, of course. So we didn't have to make any adjustments for the property rights conveyed, the financing terms, or the conditions of sale. They were all similar all across the board. For lot adjustments, we did have to make some lot adjustments. We found that the price per acre in this area, a good estimate was $650,000 per acre. So we took the amount of acres that the comparable properties had and added or subtracted value based on that $650K per acre. Market conditions adjustment. The market has been growing in value, so we looked at Zillow and got the last 20 years of the average sales price for a single family homes data. And if the house had sold a long time ago, the market has gone up pretty drastically, maybe upwards of 13%. So we multiplied the sell price by that and added it back in. For one of our properties, 314 Palmer Way had sold very recently, and the market had gone down by just a smidge in that time. So that's why we're seeing a negative $1,007 value for the market conditions adjustment. For the living area adjustment, very similar to the lot adjustment. Basically finding the price per square foot and then adding or subtracting accordingly. For the beds adjustment, we came up with an estimate of $50,000 for each additional bedroom in the house or one bedroom less. And for the baths adjustment, we use an estimate of $25,000. These estimates came from a lot of research online. There's a lot of links in our works cited in our formal paper. Essentially, it just came. There's a lot of subjectivity in choosing that amount with houses this large. Adding an additional bath or an additional bed wouldn't add the same percentage increase in value as maybe a much smaller family home, because again, we're looking at houses in the $1.5 to $3 million range in terms of estimations. So we found that 50,000 and 25,000 were a very reasonable number to follow in terms of increasing or decreasing the house's value. For other physical adjustments, this is where the real work started. So because again, we're in the $1.5 to $3 million house range, these houses are not in a very expensive real estate market. They're very expensive houses, so they have a lot of features to them. Some that we looked at: in-law suite, workspace, wet bar, home studio, hot tub, sauna, home theater, pool, barn, cellar. These houses were completely decked out. So to make sure that we had our properties adjusted correctly, we had to incorporate all of those. I know in reality you would like to have houses that are almost extremely similar, where maybe there's only a few changes. But in this price point and in this real estate market, every single house is going to have a ton of physical features. And like you can see, that could be absolutely anything from an in-home recording studio to a wine cellar, which about half of our houses had. Anyway, so to get these numbers for these adjustments, we essentially went online, did a lot of research for how much they would add to a house's value. A lot of times we weren't able to find that. So we looked at how much it would cost to build this feature added into your house, and then subtracted a little bit of value or added a little bit of value based on, pictures we saw in Zillow. For a wine cellar, that could be, or a wet bar, that could be a very small cabinet to hold liquor bottles. Or in a lot of our cases, they were, full service bars with dishwashers and running water. So we would go on Zillow and really choose which side of the estimates we would take, and then how much subjectively we thought that would actually add to the home's value. And we went from there. And while a lot of these numbers are extremely subjective, and you can see the source links again in our more formal paper, I believe that we came up with some very, very good estimates at the end of the day. And at the bottom, a lot of our houses didn't have to get adjusted too much, other than our fourth comparable house had a was significantly smaller and had less features than our comparable house. So at the end of all that, we got to $2,146,900 for our house. And I'll go back to this slide so you can see it in this bottom left corner here. We weighted our houses 30%, 20%, 10%, and so on and so on at the bottom. We based that off of the amount of similar features that it had in this slide. So as you can see, our first house right here, other than our comparable, only had 3 modifications to be made. So we weighted that house the highest at 30%. And we used that same thinking throughout all the way to the second to last house, which had the least amount of modifications. We only weighted at 5%. So all in all, again, that gave us with a $2,146,900 valuation. And again, this insinuates a level of accuracy that isn't present in this. I would have been happy for $2.1 million or $2.2 million or 2.15 for the final valuation, but we felt that it was important because this number is going to be factored further into our final valuation, that we should keep it as accurate as possible. Anyway, so that's the sales comparable approach appraisal. Thank you.
In this portion of the presentation, I will be detailing how our group used the cost approach to estimate the cost to build our subject home. Just a refresher, our subject home is at 136 South Falls Road in Sunset, South Carolina. It is part of a private gated community known as the Reserve at Lake Kiwi. It is lakefront with dock accessibility. This home has 5 beds, 5.5 baths, approximately 4,500 square feet of usable living space on the inside, and an additional 3,000 square feet of usable space on the outside in the form of decks, patios, and porches. Originally, we planned on getting in touch with the architecture of this home in order to get a true estimate of how much it cost to build. However, due to COVID-19, their office was closed and we were unable to get in contact with anybody. However, we did use the cost to build estimator tool online. Using this estimator, we were able to account for the home's features such as living space, both indoor and outdoor, kitchen and bathrooms. We were also able to input our subject's high-end features by inputting the highest grade finishes and materials into the estimator tool. We feel like this estimator was a reliable source for our estimate. The only features of the home that we're not able to account for were the outdoor kitchen and wet bar, as well as the vaulted ceilings feature. The estimator tool did account for high ceilings, but not the materials required to construct vaulted ceilings with large high-end beams. For these 2 features, we used Housing Logic and Landscaping Network to estimate the cost to build using the higher range of their estimates in order to stay true to the luxurious style of the home. For the outdoor kitchen, we estimated cost at $30,000, and for the vaulted ceilings, we estimated $25,000. Our final valuation from the cost approach consists of the estimate from the online tool, the 2 websites estimate for the cost of construction of the vaulted ceilings and outdoor kitchen, and the average lakefront lot price within the Reserve at Lake Kiwi community, which we got from the real estate office at about $650,000. After adding all these estimates together, our final estimate to build this home at cost is $1.95 million. The cost approach was a fairly strong tool to estimate the true value of this home because there are so many features in the subject that some are extremely hard to account for how much value they truly bring to the property other than the direct equity associated with the cost. The weakness of the cost approach is that it is impossible to account for the value the community the property belongs to and how much value it adds to the market value.
I'm Trevor Kolkus. All right, so now on to the income approach. And with this income approach, we analyzed this Airbnb house, and it's located right about the same location of the lake, nearly the same cove as our comparable houses. And so with this, we need to do the net operating income calculation, which we can find through the potential gross income minus vacancy and collection losses plus miscellaneous income, and that gives you the effective gross income. And then you subtract out operating expenses and capital expenditures. And so delving into these calculations, the potential gross income, we calculated it through the per stay price of the Airbnb times 365 days. And that gives us our number. And the vacancy and collection losses, we were actually able to find this through messaging the owner of the Airbnb and finding the average occupancy rate was about 48%. And so by doing that, we were able to calculate how the vacancy is opposed to the 48%. And so she also did not have any collection losses due to the Airbnb's payment assurance policy. And so next we need to do miscellaneous income, which is $0 because the owner of the Airbnb, she told us that she doesn't have any additional charges because she has yet to incur somebody who's damaged property or something like that. Next, we have operating expenses, and we have two different kinds. First is the cleaning fees. And so we were able to get this number through an estimate by averaging the national average for cleaning fees versus so they're the personal cleaning versus professional cleaning, and so professional is $105 and personal is $65, and so that leads to about $85 per stay, and the average stay is 4.3 days. And so with this, we were able to figure out that through 41 stays, the cleaning fee expense is $3,485. The next operating expense is the Airbnb commission fee, and so they require a 3% commission fee. And so with this, we were able to calculate our number being right about $2,602, giving us a total operating expense of $6,087. And then capital expenditure is $2,200. And this is an estimate through just average capital expenditures of like an apartment, but this is now catered to a lake house. And so with this, our net operating income, we take the potential gross income calculation, the vacancy collection loss calculation, which gives us our effective gross income of $86,724. And then after subtracting out the operating expenses and capital expenditures, our net operating income comes to be $78,437.
So for our cap rate, we use an assumed rate of 8%, which was obtained by averaging cap rates from similar size rental properties in similar locations. And for our property value, we use the direct capitalization formula. And in that, we use the NOI that Trevor just talked about, divided by our assumed 8% cap rate to get $980,462.50. So to analyze the income approach, it is certainly not the best method to value this property. It's probably the least accurate because there was no accurate way to find a cap rate because homes like this are not typical rental properties. These homes in this area can only be rented through Airbnb, which is not a typical rental since you rent by day and not by month. The income approach would definitely be more useful for properties like apartment complexes and duplexes, in which units are rented by the month. And we believe the most reasonable financing option would be for homeowners to take out a 30-year mortgage and then use income from Airbnb to pay the mortgage payments and still possibly make additional income. Using our NOI, the monthly rental income would be $6,536, and the average 30-year mortgage payment of a comparable price house is $4,774. And the difference between those comes out to $1,762 of monthly income. And this comes out to $21,144 of additional income after mortgage payments.
For the portion of that I will be covering of the real estate project, we will be covering the overview of using all three approaches on the listing that we used for our project. So for the PowerPoint that we're going to use, I'm going to share the screen. And then go to slideshow. So for the reconciliation, we decided to use, for sales comparison, we weighted at 50% because of the amenities that are covered within the formula for sales comparison approach. And in reference, cost and income don't really reflect the pricing of this house as well as sales comparison does, because one, cost, we weighted it at 38%, but because it's a one family home, they always have the option to build something on their own. So sales comparison was our go-to. That's why we weighted it the most, because when you're calculating it, it takes into consideration other properties and the amenities that come with the property. Being in like a neighborhood, or being in a lot like this one where it was near the lake. And for the income, this property and properties that we compared it to weren't being rented out as much, and the only way they could be rented out was through an Airbnb or a company like that, because these houses aren't meant to be rented. They're more like for single families or people to retire in. It wasn't so much a hot spot to like rent, and like a beach house. That wasn't the purpose of building this type of home. For the sales comparison, these are the totals that we got for each approach. So for sales comparison approach, we totaled a $2,146,900 price tag. With cost approach, we priced it at $1,950,000, and income approach, we only priced it at $980,462. The reason for that is cost approach, it takes in the formula for cost approach, doesn't reflect the amenities that the sales comparison does, and it doesn't compare like if this house had a pool, or if this house had or a dock in this case. It doesn't really reflect all of the value that you're getting with the house and all the amenities that come with it. And for the income approach, it's so low because the Airbnb and all that, all those rental companies that or people use for renting their houses out, it doesn't really reflect the value of the home, because not many people are doing it in that area. So that's why the sales income the income approach is so low. And for the pricing, overall, it was a much lower than what was listed on Zillow or Redfin, because prior to COVID-19, the market was doing really well and the interest rates were really low. So realtors and rental or sales companies were jacking up the prices on these houses, because they knew that the interest rates were so low and it was the time to buy. So now they were trying to list the house at a price for a higher value to obviously make a better commission. But if you look at the listings, it doesn't show it shows what the house was sold for, and many of them, the listing price was never the final agreement. It was most of the time it was lower than the listing price initially. So for our final value estimate, we got $1,932,105.44. We believe that this is a fair value for this property because it obviously takes in consideration the amenities, the cost. I mean, and not being able to rent, it kind of hurts them in some ways, but it also makes the house more valuable on its own. Many of the houses prior to COVID-19 were overvalued in the neighborhood, like I said, and many houses were sold under the initial list price. So due to all of that, if you were going into this looking to buy a house in this area, this is pretty much the median price you're going to be looking at. I like we said, a lot of these houses have been overpriced because the market has been doing so well. But for the value of the house, the true value, we believe that this is a fair price for this property.
To wrap up our presentation, we would like to say a few words regarding the current situation involving the COVID-19 pandemic. Due to the outbreak, the American and global economy is in a downturn with extreme volatility. As we outline in our report, we believe that while the circumstances regarding the downturn are vastly different, the economic impacts are very similar to the financial crisis of 2008. Both firms and individuals alike are taking in heavy burden with loss of income and cash flow. In turn, the buying power, especially for households, has seen a dip. Due to this, we believe that in general, the housing market will see a bit of stagnancy. In this difficult time, we imagine many people will discontinue their housing searches or be looking to spend less money than they would have a few months ago. On the other side of the equation, we foresee many homeowners looking to get more value out of their listings. For our specific subject and comps, we foresee a similar situation. However, the U.S. government has granted stimulus aid for households and benefits and tax relief to firms that should help weather the storm. We do have confidence in our economy's ability to bounce back, and we could see tremendous growth the rest of this fiscal year if policymakers and individuals do their part to minimize the spread and effect of COVID-19.